Welcome to Zombie Strains, the podcast where we watch all of the zombie movies in chronological order. This episode, the year is 1961, and the location is Mexico for The Curse of the Doll People.
You know, I've seen people act like that in pictures. What do they call them, zombies or something?
Zombie. What's a zombie?
Just what is a zombie?
Well, a zombie, there's, Mr. Bill is the living dead.
They are the living dead.
Get the zombies.
It's an army of zombies. No armies could stand.
Because a zombie has no will of his own.
What is wrong? What is wrong?
Hey, everybody. I'm John.
I'm Andy.
I'm Brad.
How you guys doing today? In our exotic trip to Mexico for our first, it's our second Spanish language zombie movie.
I'm feeling scarred for life from these nightmare-fueled dolls. So
yes, the dolls are fascinating. The doll people, as the title of the film says. Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of this one. It's a little crazy. As mentioned, we are watching The Curse of the Doll People. This is actually a Mexican film. It's originally in the Spanish language, and its title is Muñecos infernales, which I think would be literally translated as devil dolls or dolls of the devil. But the version we watched is one made for American television, and it's called Curse of the Doll People. And I'm sure Brad will give us all the detail on that when we're ready to go. Any trigger warnings on this one, Andy?
no, unless you have a real issue with creepy dolls. If you do, you should avoid this movie like the plague.
That's interesting. I didn't find the dolls that creepy, so now I'm curious about how creepy they were for you.
All right, well then, Brad, tell us about how this movie was made and who was behind it.
The Curse of the Doll People is a Mexican horror film released in 1961. It is the third and final zombie film from 1961 that we're going to watch. It was directed by Benito Alazraki, who has 40 directing credits. His first film was a 1955 film called Roots, about indigenous people of Mexico, and it competed at the 1955 Cannes Film Festival.
Whoa, I'm not sure I would have guessed competing at the Cannes Festival from this production, but
he went on to direct all genres of films. Horror-wise, he did a horror comedy called Frankenstein, El Vampiro y Campana. By the way, I was a German major, not a Spanish major, so pardon my Spanish. He also directed one of the first Santo films, Santo versus the Zombies, which will be in our future.
Yes.
Benito's grandson, Gary, or Gaz, is also a director, and he directed the 2022 HBO Max remake of Father of the Bride that starred Andy Garcia and Gloria Estefan.
Oh, wow.
The screenplay.
Can I just pause and say what a weird world it is that we live in, that I saw the original and now there's a remake and I didn't even, I'm.
Well, wait, when you say you saw the original, what does that mean?
Well, I saw the Steve Martin one, which probably isn't the original.
No, you have to go back to Spencer Tracy, and I believe it was Elizabeth Taylor played the bride.
Oh, wow.
So that's the original, and then there's the Steve Martin, and now there's the Andy Garcia.
Okay, all right, good deal.
So the screenplay is credited to Alfredo Salazar, but many of his films have plots similar to other films or novels. For example, he wrote Frankenstein, El Vampiro y Campana, which was basically a remake of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. The Curse of the Doll People is very similar to the 1932 novel Burn, Witch, Burn, written by Abraham Merritt. The novel is about a witch who sends dolls to kill. It was adapted into a film in 1936 called The Devil Doll. It was produced by MGM, directed by Todd Browning, who directed Frankenstein, and starred Maureen O'Sullivan and Lionel Barrymore, Drew Barrymore's great uncle.
Oh, wow.
If Burn, Witch, Burn, first of all, that's a great title. And if that's not also the name of a Rob Zombie song, I will be shocked.
I'm not going to bet against it. Now, this movie, The Devil Doll, has a different plot than the novel or the movie that we saw. The Devil Doll is about a mad scientist who worries that the world will become overpopulated, so he creates a formula that shrinks people in size, hoping this will reduce the consumption of natural resources.
I mean, you got to admit that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should send some funding his way. I mean, what could hurt?
I mean, why not?
I'll leave you guys to your wallets there.
Yeah, we won't make this a political show, but definitely donate to that guy.
Back to Alfredo Salazar. He wrote over 60 movies, including The Aztec Mummy, The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, and Face of the Screaming Werewolf. several Santo movies, and a 1968 movie called The Batwoman.
Hold on a second.
Now, this is not the 1966 The Wild World of the Batwoman that we talked about in Teenage Zombies with
okay.
Catherine Victor.
All right.
This is a Mexican film about a female wrestler who uses her wealth and skills to fight crime while dressed in a bikini, mask, and cape, all the same colors as Adam West's Batman costume.
That's
and
amazing.
I'll link to the trailer in the show notes.
Andy, you've seen this trailer. Is it everything we hoped?
It is the best thing I've seen all week. I'll just say that. And I watched Curse of the Doll People. So
Yeah, awesome.
On to the cast. The movie stars Elvira Quintana as Karina, or in the English version, Karen. She had 60 acting credits in a very short career. She died young at the age of 32 from a stroke.
This is another wonderful female star in the tradition of Miroslava, and there was another woman who got the lead poisoning from the supplements.
Oh, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Allison Hayes.
Allison
Yeah,
Hayes.
so and these weren't like, it's not like it was the 18th century and they were dying of consumption or something. These are just all weird deaths.
Yeah. It's the curse.
It's the curse. It's the zombie strain's curse. That's my new theory.
Yes.
It's a pre-curse.
32. That's so young. I mean, she is such a screen presence. Like, what a loss.
That's only a year or two older than us. I mean,
if you divide our ages by 2, is that what you mean?
Yeah, sure.
And on that note, Ramon Gay plays Dr. Valdez. He was the star of the 3 Aztec mummy movies. He was killed in 1960, the year before The Curse of the Doll People was released. He was having dinner with Evangelina Elizondo, a famous Mexican actress, when her husband appeared, and during an argument, Gay was shot.
Wow.
Now, everywhere I looked, the language around this argument and the incident was very vague, so I don't know who shot or how it happened, so all I can say was he was shot.
All right, fair enough.
Huh.
Now I'm curious about the Aztec mummy movies, though.
Yeah, so who would you put your money on, the robot or the Aztec mummy?
I have good Aztec mummy vibes. I might have to chase
I don't
these down.
see, yeah, I'm putting my money on the
Okay.
Aztec mummy.
All right.
The Aztec Mummy, it is the Aztec Mummy series, so I would vote for the mummy.
He's like the James Bond of
okay.
mummies, is what I'm hearing.
Javier Loya plays Juan. His acting career started in Mexico in 1950. In the mid-50s, he went to New York City and studied acting at the Actors Studio. There, he became friends with Marilyn Monroe, who was also a student. And there are cool pictures of Marilyn years later visiting Javier on the set of Luis Buñuel movie in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
I'll post a link in the show notes to the photos. And lastly, Quintin Bulnes plays the voodoo priest. He will return to zombie strains in the 1971 movie Isle of the Snake People, which also stars Boris Karloff.
He can wear his same outfit that he wore in this one, which has a big
Yes.
snake on the chest.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all interesting. You didn't mention the composer who has almost 300 composing credits over 30 years. How many of those do you think he just recycled? Like, how many of those are like James Horner screen soundtrack?
In this movie, he's credited as music supervisor, so he probably repurposed stuff in this film.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It was all fine, but none of it stuck out, I guess is what I would say.
It didn't all match.
Didn't all match.
You don't have the Curse of the Doll People soundtrack on repeat on Spotify?
No,
Jim?
I've been waiting for the deluxe DVD or the deluxe CD double to come in the mail.
With the bonus tracks, yeah, for sure.
By the way, I did look up, but we talked about Hazel Court's book Horror Queen. I found 2 used copies on biblio.com. One was $118. The other one was a signed first edition hardcover, and that was $1,100. So I need to figure out how I'm going to read that book because it ain't from biblio.com.
I would think an actress like her who is in these genre films has lots of fans, and that will drive the price up.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it might have been a limited run book, sort of fan book, and then a lot of fans.
Hey, John, let's cast aside pretense here. Do you want to hold up both of the copies that you purchased?
Yes, and then the papers my wife served me immediately following me buying an 1,100 book about an actress I saw in one movie. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Brad. Hey, John, you want to tell us what was going on in the world at the time that Curse of the Doll People came out?
Yes. So we're still in our first year of the 1960s. There were no zombie movies in 1960. So this is our third 1961 movie. So rather than talk about it generally, I've tried to focus more on the month and around the time that this movie came out. So, as you know, we always have a sports fact, right, Andy?
Of course.
The 15th NBA championship was won by the Boston Celtics over the St. Louis Hawks. Adolf Eichmann's trial begins in Jerusalem in this month, the month this movie came out. And Yuri Gagarin becomes the first man to orbit the Earth. So it is quite a month so far, actually.
Have you read Eichmann in Jerusalem?
I have
by
not.
Hannah Arendt. It's one of my favorite books.
I'm going to have to read that one.
It's fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
The Apartment wins Best Picture, and Burt Lancaster and Liz Taylor win Best Actor and Actress. France becomes a nuclear power in 1961. They test detonated their first hydrogen bomb. Barbra Streisand makes her national TV debut as a guest on Tonight starring Jack Parr, and they misspelled her name in the credits. They spelled it with a Y. But we're not done yet. Bay of Pigs is this month. That is when the CIA recruited a bunch of Cuban nationals to try to invade Cuba and overthrow Castro, and it was an absolute disaster. This one was interesting. 4 French generals living in Algeria rebelled against Algerian independence and tried to conduct a coup to keep control of the country. And this one's for you, Brad. Last but not least, former, future, and Hall of Fame Detroit Piston Isaiah Thomas was born this month. So
you mentioned one of the sports teams you mentioned was the Hawks. That doesn't ring any bells. Is that like a no longer around team?
They're now the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. St. Louis has this way of just losing their teams and then stealing other people's teams. It's a whole thing. It's the St. Louis Rams. They used to be the LA Rams, but anyway, they used to be the Cardinals, but the Cardinals went to Phoenix. Never mind.
All right. Well, have we put off discussing this movie long enough?
I think so. And you're in charge, Andy. So if you're ready.
All right. I'm going to try to give a 60-second overview. Whew. There's a lot in this movie, so bear with me. All right. So we meet our protagonist, and I think by far our most brash, assertive female investigator type protagonist of any movie we've seen to date.
Since Mary, at least since Mary and the Ghostbreakers.
I think she's even more go get 'em than Mary is.
She's just super competent. Sorry, we'll get into that. Please continue.
Yeah, we'll get into it. All right, so this is Karina. I don't know what version of this movie you watched. I think there are a couple of them floating around. The one I watched was about an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we
had
did
English
actually
dub over.
Can I step back for a second before you continue, Andy? Because I think there's an interesting point that I wanted to make that I forgot. What I didn't do is this film was originally in Spanish. It was 139 minutes. The version we watched was a version edited and dubbed for American television, and it's only 121 minutes. So the Spanish language version has 18 more minutes, but there's no dubbed or subtitled version out there I could find. So I was tempted to just skim through the Spanish language version, but I knew I wouldn't be able to maintain my interest after having just watched the whole thing dubbed in English. So that's maybe a curious future investigation.
This has got to be the most mysterious missing minutes since the Watergate tapes, right?
I read that the missing minutes were mostly early in the film in the parlor where everyone's discussing what's going on.
Oh, really? That scene is just one pure exposition scene.
Yeah, that's where it was cut.
I will say, I mean, this movie did not have. I don't know how you would make these scenes go on longer than this version does. So I'm kind of intrigued, but also terrified by the thought of a version that is 20 minutes longer.
Yeah. Okay. We've avoided this long enough. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So we meet Karina. She's going to be our protagonist. She is sort of an occult scholar of some sort. And at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a group of sort of scholars / adventurers / archaeologists or whatnot who have returned from a trip where they witnessed a forbidden voodoo ceremony and stole an idol. They took the idol back home with them, and now they are all under a voodoo curse that promises to kill them and their families. So in fairly rapid succession, these people start dying. We learn that the mechanism by which they're murdered are murderous dolls unleashed by somebody. I never caught his name in the actual film. I just call him the Doll Master, a sort of voodoo master sort of guy who sends creepy dolls to people. And then the dolls then kill the person. And then the process repeats with the next victim. After a bunch of people die, Karina starts putting the puzzle pieces together, and she goes to confront the doll master in his voodoo temple. Will she succeed in shutting down this hellish doll operation or not?
That sounds about right. There's some extra creepy details about the dolls, but we'll get into those as we go.
We'll get it. Yeah, we'll get into it. All right. So a couple of quick notes. I'll be running the discussion today. First of all, so this is a black and white film. And at least the version I watched was kind of grim visual quality. A lot of the scenes were dark, and that actually made it hard for me sometimes to understand what was going on or where they were. I don't know if that was the original film or, as we've discussed before, that just, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, because I posted that version for us to share, and then I found a better one on the Internet Archive, and I didn't post that version. So
the one that we did watch, there was a moment where you could see that it was a videotape that had been uploaded because it had those sort of videotape scan lines.
Oh, wow.
So we watched a film that had been recorded on video, like VHS, and then uploaded. So it was pretty low quality.
Wow. Well, would it have made a difference is my question. Is the fact that I watched a slightly better version really an advantage for me?
Well, all right. I had one other general comment. And so this is our first movie we've watched that has English dialogue dubbed over it.
Yes.
So we watched one other Mexican horror movie that was, help me remember the name, guys.
The Revived Monster.
The Revived Monster. And we watched that with subtitles. I don't know about you guys. I much prefer watching subtitles and having the audio be in the original language. But yeah, here we are. Did this impact your experience of the film, John?
I think it did, because the dubbed actors were fine, but they were all a little flat. And so so it made the movie feel flat in general. I almost hatched a scheme to find the original Spanish language version and get AI to create subtitles for me, but then I realized I was lazy and wasn't going to do that. So,
listeners, get on it. You have your mission. All right. We got to get into this, though. All right. So, Karina is, as the movie opens, we meet Karina. She and her, I guess, boyfriend Armando are canoodling. He is proposing marriage to her. She's kind of brushing him off a little bit, but finally agrees that they're going to get married later in the year. And Karina is, I mentioned it earlier already, but I think she's our most, she's like the Van Helsing of this movie.
Yeah.
And so let's get a real early audio clip where she kind of tells us a little bit about her stuff. What's her skill set?
Yeah.
Tell me, darling, how did you acquire so much knowledge about indigenous traditions, the occult sciences, and the rest?
Well, the credit is due my famous scientist father, and as a child I became interested in archaeology and medicine. And all the many traditions and all the many strange rites of the dark, dark past. I went with him almost all over the world. We went on trips to many countries, studying ancient customs and the modern.
So she knows all about the occult, and we can tell right away this is not going to be a science zombie movie. This is going to be an occult zombie movie.
Exactly. Well, Karina and Armando are on their way to a social event.
A weird social event where they're
a weird social event. They're meeting up with a bunch of people that were essentially, to me, just indistinguishable. They're all men. They're all wearing identical looking suits. This movie expects that you are keeping track of their names. I had no concept of who was who amongst these men.
Though I did enjoy that there's the one young one who felt really bad about stealing the idol, and I sort of singled him out as somebody that I liked. But beyond that, they all sort of blend together.
He's the only memorable and sympathetic one. But yeah, so the key people here are they're talking to four men. These are Luis, John, Albert, and Daniel, who are scholars or research assistants or whatever.
I feel like they're gentlemen adventurers, like in England in the late 19th century or something, right? They have jobs and lives, but they go on adventures as like I don't know what.
Yeah. That is my career goal. I think it's too late, but I think it's too late to be a gentleman adventurer. But
I know.
Anyway, they all took a trip to Haiti. So here we are touching base with Haiti again after in the 50s spending a lot of time not talking about Haiti.
Right.
And while on this trip to Haiti, they witnessed forbidden voodoo rituals. Now, they describe these like these are terrifying forbidden rituals. Whenever people talk in scared tones about voodoo rituals, I picture the voodoo rituals in The Devil's Daughter where they're just having a great time and dancing and having fun.
Yes.
So I always assume that's what's happening. People are just having a party and these white guys show up and are like, oh my gosh, it's satanic. So they witness these rituals that they're not supposed to see, and they see a beautiful idol. And they decide that they're going to steal that idol. Which they do. But as they escape, they are confronted by a voodoo priest who puts a curse on them.
Yes.
And the curse kicks in pretty quickly because their guide is murdered quickly after this. But then they make it back home with the idol. And so is home, do they ever mention a place that this takes place in?
I don't think they do.
Are we meant to assume this is Mexico?
I think so. I think we're meant to assume it's Mexico City, but they don't say that.
Well, Karina gives us a big info dump about what she knows about voodoo and zombie lore at this point. So let's hear Karina chipping in, always ready with this with some information for us.
Did I tell you that these priests who control voodoo cults, the Gants of Congress as they are called, use powers that modern science doesn't understand?
But how?
The Congress usually tend to combine their voodoo rites with an art called banga.
Banga?
Black magic, dear. There are those that defend the arts of voodoo, who affirm that the two aren't related. There are certain men called bocos, who use black magic. The Khandra frequently is also a boko. He is two persons in one.
How do they employ these powers?
This form of magic is used by witch doctors for curing. They make use of certain roots and herbs that have value. But on other occasions, they use it destructively, invoking evil spirits with such names as Kita, Bakalu, Sandor. This is when they want blood. You've all heard the fable about how they're able to change persons into zombies to make them slaves. They also use magic to conjure up evil curses and to destroy their enemies, too. Different things are used in this black magic, you know. At times, it's a wax image resembling the victim who will die. They also use a miniature coffin and a toad as well. They frequently eliminate the individual with poison.
So I hope you were taking notes.
Yeah, did you get all that?
Professor Karina there. That is all also way more interesting detail than the rest of this movie than really like this doesn't pay off all this cool detail because the guy behind all this is just a weird doll master that isn't anyway.
Who can also hypnotize people.
Yes. So the others all scoff at Karina, but she warns them not to joke about a dangerous cult and their dangerous curse. We also learn that one of these four men really regrets his actions.
Yep.
I forget the name. This might be John.
Let's say it is because I'm John and that's the one character I liked.
I think it is John. Yeah, he was the younger one.
Yes.
Yeah. He understands that what they did in stealing the idol was wrong and he wishes he could undo it. But of course it's too late. So they've all been told, and in fact, they're hosting this party tonight because they've been told that by the time the clock strikes midnight, one of them will be dead. The curse will have come from one of them. And won't you know, that's just a couple of minutes away. I know that when I have curses levied against me, I host parties so that everyone can bear witness to the voodoo shenanigans.
Yes. And they scoff at the curse, of course. And she's like, don't scoff at the curse. And they're like, it's just that's nonsense.
So Lewis is the main, I think he was like kind of the expedition leader.
Yes. He's got the pointy beard. So
he's the host of this party. He's got the beard. He's showing off this idol. And just as he is scoffing at Karina's warning, the lights go out and there's a big, tons of thunder, tons of lightning, panic ensues. And then a kind of funny thing happens. A child, so Lewis has a kid and this kid calls down like dad or something like that from upstairs. And did you notice then they say like, oh, hey, the baby's awake.
Yes.
When we see this child, it's like 8 years old. So I don't know if this is a translation thing or whatever, but their 8-year-old baby. Anyway.
Well, I'd like to give some credit to this scene, though, because it does a good job of building mystery, right? He goes to see his daughter and she says, my doll got up and moved on its own. And he's like, don't be ridiculous. And he's the first one to bite it. but you don't see how it happened. So we're actually off to a pretty good start here.
Yeah, this is a good scene. Yeah, so this scene ends with Louis goes up, he comforts his kid, and she kind of creepily tells him, oh yeah, like my doll got up and walked off.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, how silly. But as he's heading back downstairs to the party, he collapses and tumbles down the stairs. And we don't see what has killed him, although a later autopsy is going to reveal that he has suffered a wound to his ankle. Something, I don't know. Can you think of anything that might be about ankle height that could have stabbed him, John?
Well, I don't know. Cat, maybe. It's a mystery. The movie doesn't reveal it. No, it does. It's pretty obvious it's the doll, but I kind of liked this because we haven't seen the doll yet. We haven't seen so it's all a little hazy, and that makes it kind of exciting.
Yeah, so I have to say, this is a pretty good opening 10 minutes of the film. A feature throughout this movie is there's too much talking and exposition. But this is a good scene.
Yeah.
And we've set up all the stakes that we need, and we know that these people are going to start getting picked off one by one, starting with Louis really dramatically. So do you have any other thoughts on that scene before we're going to move on next to when they are kind of discussing Louis's death?
Yeah, no,
afterwards?
Go for it.
Well, I have one comment. When I think Luis is the one who says, I saw that idol, I had to have it. They wouldn't let me buy it. They wouldn't trade, so I had to take it. That's then right. And there, you're going to be happy when this guy dies.
Right.
He earned it.
Yes.
He deserved it.
Yeah, so Luis has died, and Karina and Armando, her boyfriend, are kind of discussing his death. This is when Karina is the one who noticed that there was a wound on his ankle.
Yes.
And they get into a little back and forth here, and let's listen to how Karina and Armando discuss the significance of Louis's death.
You're thinking about Louis, aren't you?
And his poor wife will be all alone now with a daughter to raise.
Yes. It was a senseless tragedy.
Darling, you must have seen the wound he had on his leg. It was down by his ankle.
Yes, he probably got a splinter in it when he fell on the stairs.
But don't you think we'd have found it near his body? That splinter was pretty long.
What's on your mind, dear? It was an accident and nothing more. Don't try to tell me voodoo curse, because I'm not a child.
We scientists at times are bound to be a little too arrogant, and we tend to joke about supernatural things and refuse to give them their proper respect.
So we set up the skeptical scientists. We got Scully and Mulder all over again. We set up with these two where the husband doctor is Scully and his wife is Mulder, who wants to believe and has knowledge of how all this stuff works.
Yep. So no sooner has this happened, though, that we get our second victim of the curse. So
these guys drop pretty quick.
They drop real fast. Yeah. And in fact, I'm probably going to skim over all. I'm not going to go into all the deaths in detail, but basically all four of them are going to die in rapid succession here.
Yeah.
The next victim, though, is John, the nice guy. So the one who felt bad about stealing the idol. But
there's an item that they all discover shortly before they're killed. What is it?
Oh, that's right. It is a cord of human hair, it looks like.
Yes, and I believe they refer to it as, hold on, it's the sorcerer's ladder is what they call it.
Oh, okay.
Which I liked very much.
And the dolls, we're going to later see how the dolls are killing people, and they collect the sorcerer's ladder after the kill, usually, I think.
Yes, that's what happens. And I think the ladder gets longer for every death that is.
Ooh, I didn't see that. That's
yes. So,
I didn't notice that. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of liked this bit. It's a nice bit of sort of creepy tech that the voodoo master is using.
Well, they bring John in, and he's breathing. His eyes are open, and they basically, Karina concludes, he's seen something so terrifying that he's just died from it. The doctor's baffled. He can't think of any drugs or any illness that would cause this. And John dies, but like a lot of these victims, like he kind of makes a grasping motion with his hands as he dies, or maybe right after he dies.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what was going on.
I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I did see that, and I couldn't make head or tail of it, but I'm curious about it.
So Karina gathers the surviving group to discuss the situation. She now believes that the deaths are connected, that it was murder, and she believes it's the voodoo curse and that the men are paying for the sin of witnessing that ritual and then stealing the idol. And she just bluntly predicts that Albert or Daniel are going to be next, which of course they are.
Yes.
Any thoughts on this, John?
Well, I think what's interesting, I don't think we see it quite yet, but what we're going to discover very quickly is that these dolls are sent to kill these people. Well, I don't want to steal your thunder. There's something about the dolls that's particularly creepy.
Yeah, so we're about to get to the meat, the beating heart of this movie, which is the creepy dolls.
Yes.
Because we move on to the third murder guy who's about to get killed. But this time we see what kills him. And John, why don't you describe what appears in his office?
So it is a doll, and what they've done is so in the fiction of the movie, what it is a doll that has the appearance of the last victim, right? So Luis is the first doll we see, and then as more people are killed, the dolls look like those people. So when John dies and the child gets the new doll, it looks like John. So the dolls in this movie look like the victims, and we'll get to the details later, but this voodoo witch doctor is taking their souls and putting them in these dolls that look like them, and then sending them out to kill people.
I love that so much, that they look like the last victim. It's so good.
The way this is pulled off is they have just very sort of blank doll-like masks that appear to be the actors, and then they have a little person playing the doll. So the doll will get introduced, it'll lie there, and then they'll cut to the actor wearing the mask, get up, and they'll walk around and do the murdering and the creeping around with the mask on. Yeah.
And the masks are really good because they're solid and it looks like a solid doll. And the way they fit on the head and the body, they don't seem. There's nothing fake about it. Somehow it really works for me.
It does work.
It is really cool. Like I thought these dolls were genuinely pretty creepy looking. Not like super scary, but they looked weird and unnerving, I would say.
There was actually a bit in here that really unnerved me a lot. So when we see John's doll, what happens is, somebody's aunt sent the little girl a doll because she was sad about the death of her father. And then we realize she's been sleeping in her bed with this doll that then gets up. It looks like John, who is the victim, and leaves her bed to go murder somebody. And when I realized that this was the mechanism for delivering the dolls, I actually was really creeped out by that this little girl was sleeping with this animated voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the doll kills you by removing a sort of a stiletto type blade.
Yeah.
They don't specify, but I mean, based on all of our zombie movie watching, what is the substance that has to be coated on the stiletto, John?
I mean, the blade looks just like the one from Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, so it has to be curare.
It does. It's exactly like that blade, in fact. So yeah, the doll creeps through the office and stabs this third guy who dies, and then it retrieves that sorcerer's ladder. And then, without further ado, this movie is not going to drag these 4 deaths all the way across its runtime.
No,
because the fourth death occurs next. The 4th guy comes in. He finds that braid of hair, the sorcerer's ladder. It came with a doll that was delivered to their house. The doll wakes up, pulls out a stiletto again. It approaches the sleeping man and it stabs him, recovers the blade of hair. I guess the dolls have their modus operandi down pretty pat here.
Yes.
But then we learn something new here, and that is what the doll kills the person and then leaves the building, and a figure greets the doll outside and then walks off with it. Yes. And we don't know this yet, but that figure is our movie's zombie.
Yes.
I did not know until the very end. I didn't know if this is categorized as a zombie movie. I wondered if the dolls were kind of supposed to be the zombies, but no, we actually are going to meet a bona fide decayed corpse zombie at the end of this movie. So,
but the dolls do have a sort of zombie-like mojo into what they do.
Yes,
they have a little more agency than the zombies we're used to, but they don't speak. They're not completely mindless, but they are driven.
They're expressionless.
They're expressionless. Yes.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to mention. At one point during this, we got a brief cutaway over to the doll master, and we hear him villainously intoning, like, something along the lines of like, "No, you will all die from the curse."
Right.
But we don't know who this person is. Unlike the Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, it's not like a secretly one of the people we've already met in the movie. It's just like a separate villain,
Right.
that I think we never really learn his connection to all of this. But
we do know he doesn't look even a little bit Haitian, but
yeah, for sure. At this point, I did put down on my notes, this is, despite all this happening, this is kind of a slow-paced movie.
Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff, and I think, like I had real tension when the doll was in the girl's bed and all of that, but it starts to sort of slow down now. We got a doll breaking into the hospital. We've got, some other stuff like that just is a little drags a little bit.
Yeah, so we did get a glimpse of the villain, and this is where we're kind of told how this is working. This is where we learn he's making dolls in the likeness of the victims. He's delivering those dolls to the next victim. The doll comes to life, kills the person, and then the process repeats, basically. So now that he's killed those 4 main people,
right,
he starts expanding his list of targets to include their friends and family, I guess. I honestly got a little confused.
Yeah.
Because more people are going to get killed, and I didn't quite really understood why they were being killed.
At some point, they did say that the curse included the family members.
Yeah, I think Karina does give a speech. She gives a lot of exposition, and we couldn't include all of it. She gives a speech about until they're all dead and their families are all dead, then they'll come to recover the totem.
Okay. Well, the next person who's killed is like a nurse. And this is interesting because
I think she is the girlfriend of one of the 4 main men.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
She was in the original scene and I recognized her, but they didn't really make that connection super clear.
All right. I thought he was just starting to take out random hospital staff, and I was a little confused.
No, I think she was dating one of the men.
All right. Well, the cool part about her death, though, is that we see how the doll master makes these infernal dolls. He does that by dripping blood from a real heart that he's got in a container.
Oh yeah,
onto the doll, and that blood splashes and brings the doll to life as a murderous doll.
I might have put a very excited note in my notes here that says "a heart in a jar" with an exclamation point, because we're suckers for a heart in a jar.
Yes, we need to start tracking how many hearts in jars appear in these movies.
Yes.
Okay, so we get some more exposition from Karina as Karina and her boyfriend Armando discuss these deaths. And let's listen to this next bit because it's not really plot important, but I grabbed it just because it has one thing we have not heard yet in all of these zombie movies.
Just now I talked to you about dolls being stuck with needles. That act is part of the black magic of voodoo. And besides, in ancient Egypt, a certain form of doll was used for wreaking revenge.
In what way?
They did the murdering.
You mean the dolls? Perhaps you can tell us how they move about, Doctor.
You mean what gives them life?
Exactly.
The spirits do it. When the witch doctor murders a man, black magic is the method he uses, making the wandering soul come to occupy a puppet's body. The dolls are obligated to obey.
All?
A few resist.
So a couple interesting things here. First, we get the hint, which is going to shortly be shown to be true, that some of the dolls are going to actually resist the doll master a little bit and fight back. But mostly, this is our first mention of Egypt, I think, in all of these movies as having some sort of mystical connection to zombie lore.
Yes, that is interesting. And I think, a lot of these older movies are a hodgepodge of myths thrown together. So I think we have a little mummy myth here worked in with our dolls, but it's the Hollywood mummy myth spliced in with this Egyptian myth.
So I just thought that was interesting. Obviously, Egyptian magic has nothing to do with voodoo.
Right.
But this was, I just liked the Egyptian thing. And in fact, later, I thought, for most of my notes, I called the zombie a mummy because that's what I thought it was.
Oh, yeah.
It comes out of an Egyptian-style sarcophagus.
I put the same note in, and then later he refers to it as a zombie, and I was like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
That could be the translation. Who knows what it was in Spanish?
That's true.
That's a very good point, yes. So Karina just completely takes charge of the movie at this point. Like, she's just bossing people around. She knows what to do. She gets the police to guard the families of the remain of the victims. They don't do a very good job of this. And there's kind of an action scene that happens next that I struggled a little bit to make out what was going on.
Yes.
So
is this when she goes to the villain's lair by herself?
Well, the police are like on stakeout and they see a super tall, creepy looking guy.
They're not the police though. They're the henchmen or the employees of one of the other guys.
Yeah, one of these guys is clearly a mobster and they're his henchmen.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a group of just utterly indistinguishable guys in suits are like on stakeout, I think, and they spot a super tall, creepy guy in a trench coat bringing a doll to the house that they're staking out.
Right.
So they chase after it in their car.
Yep.
And like there's a sequence of events. I didn't quite understand what happened, but they get the doll in their car or something.
They do. They get so they stop the guy. He drops the doll and runs, and then they put the doll in the box in the back seat, and the mobster is in the back seat. He's the fourth guy, and his two henchmen are driving, and they start to follow the zombie with their car. And while they're doing that, the doll kills the guy in the back of the car.
Yeah, it's kind of great.
Yes.
And so the doll comes to life, kills the guy in the car, and then it like leaps out of the moving car.
Yeah.
And then there's this amazing scene where the car that's chasing behind them like runs over the doll. It looks so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I really enjoyed this scene. But they now have a doll. Like the point of this is they have like a crushed doll that they can take back, and Karina can do a little bit of forensics on it.
Yes.
So that's what they do. They take the doll back and they kind of do sort of an autopsy style cutting open of the doll to investigate.
Yeah, it was a little weird when they're cutting off his clothes like it was a person in the hospital.
Yes,
yeah. It was a little strange, but the important thing is they also find out, they trail the guy and they know where the voodoo witch doctor's lair is.
Is that how they figure? Okay, because later Karina's going to go to the voodoo lair and I could not figure out how she knew where
because that's where the zombie goes.
Okay. There is a cool special effect while they're autopsying the doll, and you see the cord of hair like snake into its head.
Yes.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And there's also a moment when Karina almost becomes hypnotized by the doll.
Oh, is that what's happening? Okay. Yep.
And she fights it off, but she acknowledges that it was happening.
Yes. And then she smashes the doll and burns it. While that's going on, more people are getting killed by other dolls.
At one point, 4 dolls debate whether to kill the little girl as she's walking across the living room with a glass of water, and they decide not to.
I didn't mention that. Yes. So Karina mentioned earlier that some dolls will resist. And there was an earlier scene where the dolls have broken into the mansion and are retrieving the idol.
Yes.
And the little girl walks by, and one of the dolls makes to go kill her, but the second doll like wrestles with it and holds it back. So this is going to be important at the end for this movie's resolution as well, that some of the dolls really hate what they're being forced to do, it seems.
Yes.
But that said, more people are getting killed. So a man and a nurse are killed, just some relation of these people, I guess.
The nurse is the girlfriend we already mentioned.
Oh, right.
And the other one's like a henchman.
And at the murder scene, they find a pair of child's glasses, which, of course, are sized well for a creepy nightmare doll.
Yes.
And so Karina takes charge, and we're actually entering kind of the final stage of this movie, because Karina is going to go off on her own and break into the voodoo temple.
Yes.
And like there's a man with her, and he tries to talk her out of it, and she's just won't have any of it, and he doesn't like go along to help her or anything. She's just like, look, I'm doing this, and he stays behind. And then she breaks into the world's creepiest mansion. She breaks in through a window.
Yep.
And can you tell us, John, a little bit about what does she find when she breaks inside?
Well, she finds the lair of a witch doctor, and here's a note that I put in all caps. If you're in a villain's lair and you see a sarcophagus, Look inside it. Otherwise, whatever's in there is going to come get you. And I think the reason you might have thought this was a mummy is the zombie is in the sarcophagus.
Yes.
And starts chasing her around. But yes, it's like a mad scientist lair again, but it's all magic, right? It's got altars and sarcophagus and all this stuff.
It's like this house of horrors.
Yeah.
It's got this like smorgasbord of just occult stuff. There's like creepy heads. There's creepy skeletons.
Skulls
there's creepy
hanging
statues.
down. There's like a throne that
and there is a sarcophagus and
with Egyptian hieroglyphics all over it.
And so, as of course it must, while Karina is facing away from it, the sarcophagus slowly opens. Right. And what do we see inside, John?
We see our zombie. And he has very interesting practical effect makeup. It looks like his face is like melted. He's like some kind of strange monster, and he comes
shriveled.
Yeah. And he and the zombie comes out and starts to stalk her around the house.
This zombie isn't like gross and rotten the way some of the other ones we've seen are, but this is like the fourth movie in a row where they clearly put effort into making the zombie look pretty gnarly, I would say. So it looks pretty cool. It comes out of the sarcophagus, and then it creeps up behind her and grabs her. But she is saved by none other than the doll master himself.
That's right.
So, John, do you want to describe? I've been calling him the doll master. We should probably call him the zombie master. Can you describe him for us?
Well, and in the movie they call him the witch doctor. He has this sort of long Prince Valiant haircut. And a sort of evil little beard and mustache, and he's wearing like a black satin, like what do I want to say? It's almost like a Nehru jacket that goes down, and it's got like a white snake across it. And he hypnotizes her, and he has these staring eyes that he uses. That's like his superpower.
And it's like a total flashback to Bela Lugosi's staring eyes.
For sure.
All the way back in White Zombie. Like, that's clearly the inspiration here.
Yes.
So when he's hypnotizing Karina, you see this close-up of his staring eyes and his piercing gaze. And by hypnotize, he can kind of like subdue you through hypnosis. He doesn't like mind control you completely.
But he can control your physical actions.
Yeah. This is where he identifies what I thought was a mummy as a zombie,
right?
And he kind of does a big villain monologue here. He kind of shows off his dolls to Karina. We see that he punishes the disobedient dolls by stabbing them through with those stiletto pens, which is
that's
pretty nasty.
Mean, yeah,
it is. So he's a jerk. So let's hear his zombie master monologue.
I possess knowledge related to the most ancient sciences, and your science is nothing as compared to it, you see. It's quite true. Only I know who commands the dark forces of death and malin. And all the occult forces gather around to the sound of my voice.
Very, very dramatic, and I'm almost certain that the voice of the original actor was better than that. I'll bet any amount of money.
Yeah, it's no Ian... who's that guy? Ian Keith. Yeah. So I did love several times he's sneering at how dumb science is compared to his cool occult powers, and he keeps he uses the word stupid many times to describe science, and like stupid has just been a theme. I think this is the third movie in a row where the villain has gone on a tirade about how stupid the heroes are. So I don't know, maybe,
I was thinking about that since our last episode. I remember as a kid, my parents didn't want me to use the word stupid directed at other people.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a harsher term back then than it is now.
I think so. Also, he refers to his powers as ancient science. So there's this idea of magic being indistinguishable from science in the ancient world, that they are one. And that's sort of a theme we've been seeing lately as well.
Yes. So this scene ends when he lets Karina go.
You forgot the most important prop in his evil lair, though, and how he hypnotizes her.
Oh,
the disco
okay.
ball hanging from his ceiling.
Yes, there's amidst all the skulls and sarcophagi, there's a spinning disco ball.
Yes, I don't think it was a disco ball at the time. I would suppose that there's some cultural heritage that has like this ball with mirrored pieces in it, and that was later adopted by discos. Let's just assume that. But he has one, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know if I'm buying that, John, but sure.
Well, we know disco didn't exist yet in April 1961.
I think they just had that ball and they thought it looked cool, but what do I know? So we do see a sign. So he basically ushers Karina out.
Yes.
As she goes, one of the disobedient doll kind of reaches out pleadingly to her, kind of gesturing for help, but she's still hypnotized. He ushers her out.
And keep in mind, it's because the dolls still have the spirits, even though they're controlled, they still have the spirits of the people who they represent.
That's right. So the zombie master, he does intend to kill her, but he wants her to be murdered away from his temples so that suspicion isn't drawn to this creepy. Imagine the police coming into this mansion, by the way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be super good for the doll master.
Fortunately, there's no police in this movie.
Well, they do talk about that. They say, don't call the police. How do we explain this? And the gangster says, my men can handle it.
I thought the gangster was the police through this whole movie, so clearly I wasn't.
No, he's a gangster who probably doesn't want the police around.
So he ships Karina off. I thought at first she went home, but I think she goes. Is she like living in the hospital?
I think they're all just hanging out in the hospital.
In the hospital, like she goes and she.
Yeah, I think
it makes no sense.
So I would like to say, like from a production standpoint, we have taken a little step back in the sense that like these sets clearly don't have like ceilings. They're clearly like 3-wall sets and that's, and it just looks a little bit more like a TV show,
Yeah, very
but
much.
It's definitely more competent than like a teenage zombies. There's a spectrum of competence here. This is not near the bottom, but it's also not near the top.
So this scene is clearly setting up that she's about to be menaced by something awful because she's kind of relaxing and she's lounging around in bed. On the street outside, the zombie is ferrying not one, but 2 creepy dolls towards Karina. And the zombie is intercepted by a bunch of these interchangeable guys. And they try to stop the zombie.
They shoot it.
They shoot it a bunch of times. Nothing happens. It just takes them all out. It strides really aggressively towards them. It throws them down. I don't know if it's supposed to be killing them or just kind of tossing them aside.
I think it kills at least one. The one it looks like was killed does come back later.
So this is a pretty cool scene. They interrupt the zombie while it's bringing the dolls. It puts the dolls down and kills and just takes out the guys in 30 seconds and then resumes its journey. And then...
And this zombie moves like a regular person, too. It doesn't lumber around. It moves with the motions and the sway of a human.
But it doesn't speak.
We do get a name for the zombie at the end of this movie. Did you guys catch that?
I didn't. I heard it, but I can't remember it.
I think it sounded like Sabood. So anyway, not that important. The zombie drops off the dolls and they creep into Karina's hospital room where she's living for whatever reason. They brandish stilettos and approach her, and she is just paralyzed on the bed. Now it makes more sense. I didn't understand why she was just laying there inert while they approached very, very slowly. But if they are hypnotizing her, which I think they are because there's a bunch of close-ups of her face.
Yeah, and I think this is also an attempt to sexualize her, right? They zoom in on her eyes and then her lips, and we're supposed to sort of savor her fear. So there's a little bit of that sort of, we talked about this in the past. It'll be something in our 70s and 80s movies, that combination of sexuality and horror that is starting to seep into these movies. And I think this scene is all about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight, John. So the dolls are interrupted before they can stab Karina by somebody else. I think his name was Alfonso or something.
Yes, another thug.
I didn't know who this was. He comes in, he gets stabbed. He gets kind of stabbed in a gnarly way. I think they jab it in his neck. But then the dolls beat a hasty retreat. And
they don't explain this, but they grab the sorcerer's ladder, the knotted piece of hair, and leave. So they don't spell it out, but I think that by planting this sorcerer's ladder on somebody, it summons the dolls, they become the victim, and once they've killed, they leave. So maybe she just lucked out because they killed somebody, and felt they'd done their duty.
Okay. Yeah, that could be. I didn't really understand why they left. But then we're down to the final minutes of this movie, and Karina, despite having just spent a whole scene being a hapless victim, is going to take charge again. She asserts that they can indeed kill this zombie. They will need to use a special weapon against it. And let's hear an audio clip of Karina talking.
But boss, the zombie's immune to our bullets. How can you kill him?
The only practical thing is fire. Its effect is purifying. The zombies, you know, are the devil's creatures, but they fear fire because that in itself represents the awful fate that eternity has in store for them.
That's pretty great.
That is a neat little detail, yes. So they go to the temple, Karina. So that means, they bring torches to use against the zombie. Karina and a bunch of the guys head to the voodoo temple to confront the doll master. But what they learn when they get there, that as long as you have eye contact with the doll master, he can hypnotize you.
Or if you've ever had eye contact. So even if you had it and look away, like you're his creature.
That's right. And so he hypnotizes all of them, forces them to stand still and to drop their weapons.
And their torches. They have 3 torches with them.
That's right. And so then he summons the zombie and the dolls all start approaching to finish off our hapless, paralyzed heroes. This is where he orders them to drop their torches because we see the zombie, both the zombie and the dolls, like recoiling from the torchlight. Then he tells them to put the torches down. And he's gloating in kind of typical villain style. And he notices that Karina has her hand in her pocket as if she is about to pull something out of it. And in a little impulsive decision that I bet he looked back at later as having been a tactical error.
He's like, nothing can defeat me. I am absolutely invincible. So just take whatever's in your pocket out. It won't harm me.
Yes. So, but what? So I did not know what she was going to produce from her pocket, either. John. But what it is very interesting. If you've been listening to this podcast for the last 30 episodes,
yeah.
What is it, John?
It is a cross, and not just any cross, but a Catholic cross with a crucified Christ on it.
Yes, it's our first crucifix, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly, we talked a couple of episodes ago, we started noticing that Christianity had not been weaponized against zombies the way it's weaponized against other supernatural horror threats.
Right.
But here we have a straight old, brandish the cross as if you were warding off a vampire.
For sure. And it works on the zombies and the dolls.
It does. It seems to... break the control the zombie master has over the dolls.
Yep.
Because the dolls rush at him and stab him, or at least one of them does.
Yeah.
And so he's been stabbed and he's staggering around dying, and he's like, I'm going to take you all with me. And he starts setting the place on fire with one of the torches, but they all flee from the burning temple, and then the words "the end" appear on the screen.
Yes, they all drive off in a car.
Did I miss anything about that final scene?
No, I liked it, and it was sort of the only time where there was any action. I mean, there was, but, some of the problem with a lot of the scenes in this movie are, we're describing these creepy dolls, and the dolls do look creepy, but what they do is they mime the dolls, like somebody's lying in bed, so the dolls come up and they have to climb up on the chest at the foot of the bed, and they have to climb into the bed, and then they pull out their, they drain the tension out of it by being sort of very meticulous about how they depict it happening, right? Instead of doing, in a modern movie, which would do quick cuts or something, or have the dolls leap onto the bed, they sort of show the whole thing, and I think that and the dubbing really flattened this movie for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very fine line between drawing out a scene and just ratcheting the suspense and the tension up to really unbearable levels. Right. But if you kind of cross over that line, you just have a really long scene where the dolls take forever to walk across the room, and you're bored by the time they get to the victim.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this movie, I think, falls on the wrong side of that line in a number of key scenes.
Yeah, I agree.
But, hey, John, how about we wrap this up by going through our questions?
Yes.
Sound good?
Yeah.
John, in Curse of the Doll People, is there a hero party?
I think so. I think it's Karina, her husband, and any of the surviving people who
there's like a rotating band of like survivors.
Yes.
I would start with the 4 couples at the top. So there were 8 of them,
yes,
right?
there were 8 of them plus Karina and her husband.
And how does the party do? How many survive?
I think only 4. Karina, her husband, that one of the original 4 men does live. He does get stabbed by the doll in the car, but he actually survives.
Yeah,
somehow.
that's
And
right.
then there's another person there, and I don't know who they are. A henchman.
The exact kill count, I kind of lost track of the exact kill count, but I think like 5-ish.
5-ish.
People get
Yeah,
killed.
I would say that's right. Because, there's somebody in the hospital that just gets killed because they're there. And then, it's at least 5, maybe 6.
And what kind of zombie strain are we dealing with in this movie, John?
We are dealing with 2 different strains. We have a zombie raised from the dead, which is our sort of zombie mummy. And then we have these doll people, which are kind of like zombies, but not exactly. They're sort of, like old movies don't have the clear definitions we expect. So I think we've got 2 strains here. They're all mystically created, however.
Yeah. Is there anything new about these zombie strains?
I think the idea of having your spirit trapped within a zombie-like creature like these dolls, that feels new. Because you're dead, but your spirit is trapped inside this vessel. And you still know who you are, but you have lost your agency. I don't know. That felt new to me. What did you think?
I think so. And this is not the first movie that has suggested that the zombies, that the spirit or the soul inside the zombie might be fighting against the orders of the zombie master.
Yes, for sure.
But I think it is the first one where the controlled beings truly turn on their master as this much. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, Bela Lugosi has he orders his zombie to kill in what's the one?
White Zombie, he orders the woman to kill her fiance.
Yeah, there's one where the zombie kills him. It's not Frankenstein. It's not Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, is it? It might be.
Well, there's Revenge of the Zombies in the Swamp, where the zombies killed the mad scientist.
At any rate, I don't think this is
Is that different than what you're thinking, Andy?
Well,
Is it
I just
comparison?
wanted to say, like, this feels, we see the struggle against the zombie master's control on screen way more vividly than we have seen it in past movies. I'm not saying this is the first time this concept appeared in these movies, but okay. We were talking about Hero Party, and I wanted to call one other thing about that, John. And I do think the character of Karina is really, I think she is kind of a first Mary in Ghostbreakers, and I think Mary in Ghostbreakers is the only like woman protagonist in these films that has come close to having her like assertive go get 'em attitude.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed her character.
And I think that who knows who took this and ran with it, but it feels like she is a model for future hero parties with a strong leader, right? Who sort of knows what to do. That's the mode she fits into here.
Absolutely. I said at the beginning that she is kind of like the Van Helsing of this movie, but typically you will have like a wise Van Helsing or a Gandalf or whoever figure that gives you the lore and the background and the information you need in order to beat the bad guy.
Right.
But she is both the source of knowledge and the main protagonist actually going after the bad guy, which is, I don't know, it's just kind of different.
Yeah.
All right, John, did we talk about this? Or are there any like zombie firsts in this movie that we haven't touched on?
No, I don't think so. I think the harnessing of the dead person's spirit into a doll that resembles them is freaky and weird. I don't know that that's a zombie first. I don't know. I'm unclear.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's pretty visually effective. It doesn't quite feel like a first here. We've been dancing around this in other movies, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's move on to your 4 pillars of the zombie genre. How many of these are we going to find in Curse of the Doll People? John, is there an apocalypse in this movie?
No, there is not.
Is there contagion in this movie?
No. People can get turned into a zombie, but it still requires the intervention of a zombie master or a witch doctor in this case.
Yeah, the zombies themselves cannot pass on their curse or their infection. Are there tough moral choices in this movie?
I think so. I think, even if it's just the doll people not killing the young girl, I think there's people conflicted about how they should behave in the new circumstance. You know what I mean?
I do think this is our first movie where the tough moral choices were made by the zombies.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, I would say that's true. So we'll say kinda. We'll say yes-ish to that one.
Yeah. And lastly, does this movie feature loved ones turning against you?
So that one for sure is a yes, but it does it in a weird way. So the spirit of your loved one is trapped in a doll that resembles them, and then they try to kill you. I mean, I think that counts, but it's just weird and in a delightful way.
All right, and lastly, John, we didn't talk about the poster earlier, but does the poster for this movie sell it accurately, do you think? Between last episode and this one, I should have translated the words on this poster. I wish I had.
Yeah, the poster is just a little weird. It looks like a scary poster. I'll say yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the poster is exactly going for. So, you know what, John? I did skip a question. It was, how are zombies killed? And we know that they are vulnerable to fire, but otherwise invulnerable.
Right. Yeah, so is paranoia a major theme in this movie? Conformity, dark secrets?
I don't think so.
It's not a dark secret if you invite people over for a dinner party and tell them all about how you stole the idol.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that may be dark. It's not a secret. So,
I mean, certainly that would be, kind of the dark side of this age of internationalization and exploration and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it's presented like that.
Yeah. Well, how will our heroes change? Will they get younger, less professional, more diverse?
These feel pretty in line with the sorts of heroes you'd find in like a 1940s zombie movie, I think. They are young professionals.
Yes.
A couple of them are older, but Karina is really our hero, and she looks, I don't know. I don't know how she's gotten this much occult knowledge in her mid-20s, but...
yeah, it does take the trope of sort of, in the 50s, we had a lot of daughters of the scientists hanging around. Here, we don't have that scientist looming over her, and she is both that sort of young person and the wise person wrapped into one.
I don't know what else has been going on in film outside the zombie genre.
Right.
But this is a really confident, assertive female lead who is not like questioned or belittled by the men around her. I mean, they recognize her expertise and they do what she says usually.
Yeah, and actually, that's funny. In one of the clips you played, her husband asks a question and she's like, "That just means this, dear." Like, she's actually condescending to him. Yes. And I found that funny. And Brad laughed when we played that clip right at that moment. And yeah, for sure.
All right, what's next?
Will science and sci-fi take on a new role in zombie movies? Answer this one carefully, because I think it's interesting.
Well, this movie is not a science zombie movie, and they don't really use technology to deal with the zombie menace.
Though Karina is a scientist, she claims to be a scientist multiple times, and she has the knowledge to defeat the curse.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, this movie it's very unsubtle with its modern scientific worldview versus traditional magical worldview. I mean,
right.
Both Karina and the villain deliver monologues about how in our confidence in modern science, we have lost our respect for the old ways that defy science, blah, blah. We have heard this speech in a good number of movies at this point, so it didn't feel new to me. But it's certainly true that Karina is a modern scientific, like, she's someone who would look at the evidence and come to a conclusion and hypothesize how to deal with the zombies and and then adjust her approach based on the results. Like, she seems like a modern scientific hero.
Yes, she does. So does the genre leave its local roots in the Caribbean and move into the broader world stage? This is another interesting one.
So, yes. I mean, this is a Mexican movie. It appears to be set in Mexico. And
we do talk about Haiti, but we also talk about Egypt.
So Haiti gets mentioned the most, but we get that intriguing little mention of Egypt. So this does feel like a more global sort of, this feels a little more global, I guess. That said, I don't think it's really taking any great strides in this direction.
Okay.
All right. And so, John, last couple of questions here that we always wrap up our episodes with. Would you and I survive in this zombie world?
So I think I wouldn't steal an idol and come under a curse. But let's say I did. Hypothetically, I think I wouldn't. If the dolls can hypnotize you, I think they get me because they're pretty sneaky.
I think so too. It's a hypnotizing that does it.
Yes.
If they couldn't hypnotize you, they'd be pretty easy to evade. But yeah, I'm with you. If they got into my house, I mean, I would also not accept a package that had a doll this creepy looking.
Yes.
But assuming I did and it got in my house, I would probably be toast. Is this a zombie movie, John, or is this a movie with zombies?
I'm going to say it's a zombie movie because it has two kinds of zombies and they're absolutely central to the plot.
Yep, I agree. And their zombie nature is integral to the plot. It's part of the story.
Yes.
All right. And then lastly, John, I'm really interested how you're going to answer this question. Do you recommend this movie first, generally, as a movie that's worth watching?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, do you recommend it specifically to our legion of zombie loving fans?
So I'm going to say generally no, because the dubbing and the sort of flatness that brings and some of the slowness of the movie did make it a hard watch. But for zombie fans, there's so many great ideas and moments in this movie. I think it's worth it. So I'm going to go no general, yes zombie fans.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I'll maybe give it it's a definite no for me on is it worth watching generally. It's fine, but it's like you say, it's low budget. It's got a lot of issues. It's kind of slow. It's just kind of hard to recommend. I want to give it a soft yes, though, for zombie fans. I don't think this is vital watching to understand the zombie genre, but it is an interesting little side trek into this whole creepy dolls business, which is its own separate horror genre.
Yes, and I think just the bit where the doll is delivered and then you realize the evil doll is sleeping with the daughter, like that's creepy enough for horror fans to see, because it could have been done in another horror movie that we haven't seen, but it's the first time we've sort of seen that.
This did make me wonder what the first creepy doll horror movie was. I didn't do my research to find out.
Yeah, I'm very curious, like, is this the start of that genre or are there other ones first? Because it's a line from here to Child's Play, you know?
Yeah, for sure. There's a Twilight Zone, probably more than one Twilight Zone with some creepy dolls. And that was in the 50s, right?
Yes.
So anyway, the idea's been around. Okay, well, now it's time for the scariest part of the episode. And this is where producer Brad reveals to us what we will be watching next.
For our next movie, let's stay in Mexico.
All right.
And let's watch this. Here's your poster.
Yay!
Yes. All right, we've been waiting for this one.
We have been.
Santo contra los zombies.
Yes, Santo versus the zombies. This is very exciting.
So, John, please describe this fantastic poster.
We have featured on it at an angle, standing with his white mask, shirtless, but with his white trunks, the famous lucha libre Santo, who is not just a wrestler, he's a superhero, and he's going to save us from the zombies while probably doing some wrestling. So he's featured. There's a woman looking stressed out. There are some zombies in the upper right that are sort of wandering towards him, and he is wrestling at the bottom. And then there's a giant question mark in the middle of it. Santo's a whole thing, and we'll talk about it next time because it is a cultural milestone or sort of stake in the ground for Mexican culture at this time. But does anyone know what Santo means translated? It means saint. So Santo is the saint. His theme is he rescues people. He saves the downtrodden. So Santo is a saint, and he's a wrestler, and apparently he's going to take on some zombies.
I am more excited about producer Brad's background for this movie than any movie we've seen so far.
I know.
Did you see the name in the bottom right of the poster?
Oh, it's the same director.
That's right.
Same director.
Okay.
Yeah. Benito Alazraki.
Yes. What I do know is Santo movies aren't necessarily, high budget, but they are important, is what I'll say.
I have so many questions, but I'll save them for next episode.
Outstanding. Well, folks, thank you. We'll catch you next time. And keep in mind, all of us have another podcast. Mine is called The Splat Book. Andy, what's yours?
Mine is called Roll for Topic.
And I'm on Multiplex Overthruster watching movies of the early 80s.
All right. Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to Zombie Strains. We'll be back next episode to talk about another zombie movie. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take a moment to rate us in your podcast app of choice. Tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at zombiestrains. All of this helps like-minded people find the show. See you next time.